What's up, Sherpa Network? Thank you for tuning in today. My name is Jonathan Tenenbaum, aka JT, aka J On, aka Sherpa Winfrey, and I'm the host and producer of DomainSherpa, where all roads lead to domains. Today's show is part of our Down the Rabbit Hole series, because as we say on DomainSherpa, all roads lead to domains. And in the reverse, our work in domains has us venturing all the time into different areas and topics, some domain related, some not so domain related, hence the jump down the rabbit hole. This particular show, got to give a big shout out to my homegirl, to our homegirl, Jen Sale, who was part of kind of the group that helped found this thing and get it going, and we've been doing it ever since. And we describe it as a tech adjacent digital asset pop culture tangent positive podcast with some domain stuff thrown in for good measure. So today, super excited, we have an absolute domain OG, the one and only Fred Hsu. I'm not gonna get, I got AKAs, we got the whole thing. I'm gonna come round robin and get to you, but I'm just letting everybody know. We're going to talk about Fred, what Fred's deal is, some of his history, and what he's got going on in the space with D3 and otherwise, which is exciting stuff. D3 is building the future of internet infrastructure and tokenization, Web3, and just some really cool things around domains. So as a disclaimer, Drew is actually an investor in D3, so I want to get that kind of out of the way up front. So it's, so it's kind of a related thing, and but Drew's invested in a lot of stuff, you know what I'm saying? So it's like I gotta literally do that disclaimer at every single show. But anyway, welcome back. And all right, let's keep it moving. Down to my lower right, we got my boy Shane Cultra, aka Sugar Shane, aka Honey Shane, aka Mike Rowe, aka Blame It on the Shane, aka House of Shane, aka the Culture Personality, aka Doing It for the Culture, aka In Shane in the Membrane, aka In Shane in the Blockchain, aka Chain. What's up, man? How you living?
I'm doing good, man. I mean, it's life is good. Family's healthy. Like Drew said, a little bit of traveling, play with the dog. Like it's good. It's all good. That's just, I'm looking forward to 25. Like 24 was pretty good. 25 is lots of opportunity. That's all you can ask for.
All the way live in 2025. Let's get it. Okay. Then last but certainly not least, the man of the hour. Below me, we got my boy Fred Hsu, aka Hey Fred, aka Right Said Fred. I'm too sexy for domains, aka Freddie Got Fingered, aka Brooklyn Sue, aka a boy named Sue, aka You Don't Like It? Sue me. Fred is the CEO and co-founder of D3 with over 2 decades in the tech industry. It's been instrumental in scaling multiple companies and successful outcomes. Co-founder and CTO of Oversee.net, pioneering the standard for many domain-related services, including aftermarket brokerage, web hosting, ad placement, parking, and other stuff that everybody uses today that we all take for granted. Fred was part of some of the backbone foundational stuff in the domain space, going all the way back, UCLA, I mean, West Coast all day. Fred, welcome to the show, man. First time on. How you living?
Thanks for having me. And thanks for the aliases too. I was hoping I was not going to be the only one without a great little name.
Oh,
thanks for calling,
man. You don't come on this show without getting some AKAs. You know what I'm saying? So it's and one of them, Hey Fred, is actually your Twitter handle. So anybody who's trying to find Fred online can find him at Hey Fred. And any significance to that, or was that just something you thought was kind of cool or whatever, catchy?
Hey Fred was taken, so it's got to be Hey Fred.
hey, I like it, man. Well, look, so like I said at the intro, this is our kind of a rabbit hole. We wanted to, you and I mean, obviously, we've known each other. You've been in the space for a long time. Truly an OG. So just to talk a little bit about your sort of past and history and all that good stuff. I mean, so was Oversee your first foray officially into domains back in the day?
Yeah, it was right out of college, right around 2000 at the .com bust. Needed to pay the bills, needed to make money. So we started Oversee.
Oh, very cool. So what was it that drew you to domains? Was it just the folks that, that you founded Oversee with? Was it that there was something about, obviously domains, the backbone of the internet, like just the timing?
It was a number of factors. It was, this is mostly around 2000, 2001. We actually got the original deal with Yahoo, formerly known as Overture, formerly known as GoTo.com. Mm-hmm. Me and my co-founder previously started a bunch of SEO projects. I was making money through SEO and click arbitrage in college, in fact. And so we thought, you know what, let's partner with GoTo, which is up here right in Pasadena. I'm in East LA today, but up in Pasadena, they gave us the first affiliate deal, the link. And so we thought, let's figure out ways to systematize this and expand our traffic base. We bumped into domainers, this whole domain industry, probably like in late 01, early 02. Just around the same time, we met this little company, pre-IPO, their name, little startup, they were called Google. Bunch of scrappy people trying to basically make it.
Who was your first parking client? Or arbitrage?
I'm inclined to say a guy who owned Goggle. His name was John something. And he actually came to our office in Spring Street here in downtown LA, right next to Skid Row. He actually visited the office, so I think that really stuck with me. Showed personal interest. Richard Lau came over to our original office too. I just saw him the other night. He was like, "Oh yeah, he came to our first one." So yeah, our first parking clients were of that kind of higher tier, generic-ish, making money on affiliate links before, but now, hey, let's figure out a way to kind of systematize it. And after that, 02, we met a bunch of Google people. They're like, we want high volume, consistent, high quality traffic. And we just snowballed things, got to meet a lot of domainers, got to get into the whole domain conferences, the whole domain industry. Worked till 5 a.m. some nights, pumping out code. I slept on a couch next to 60 buzzing servers that I manually pieced together from the Pomona computer fair. That was really fun because I'd done a lot of the stuff in college. Yeah, and we got it going. So,
awesome. And they say EMF radiation is bad for you.
Yeah, we actually had a family of pigeons who slept underneath the air conditioner, window-mounted air conditioner. I felt really bad, evacuating at one point, but at some point it just got really distracting. Feathers would get into our air conditioning system and start affecting the servers that ran domain sponsor, right? That was 02, 03. But yeah, things kind of snowballed probably between 03 to 06, 07. And so it was really fun time. JT, we're excited about Las Vegas just because it's institutionalized fun and very, very turnkey. We don't have to set up and have 6 people dedicated full time, round the clock, all year, just dedicated to one conference and one party. So super excited about that. Looking forward to seeing a lot of you guys, and the overall industry, Web2 and Web3.
Yeah, no, it's going to be great. So let's talk a little bit about what you guys are doing. Let's talk about D3. So what was, and I know Shane had and is still involved, with the business. So, what was the motivation there? I know you got an incredible team, and you guys are doing some really exciting stuff. So talk to us about what's happening.
Yeah, we started so me and Paul Stahura, we were scratching ideas on a napkin in late 2022. This is right around the time of the ICANN contracted parties meeting up in Universal City. So during the morning, he was scheduled to sit on the ICANN meeting talking about why he worries about fragmentation, name collision, and a lot of these topics like in Web3, Web2 that we had seen also kind of run their course in 2023 and also 2024, right? So we were having breakfast and I was like literally coaching him on kind of how I think about things, right? And what maybe to say. So we're really concerned about things like name collision from day one. Our general view on the previous wave of Web3 domains, I'll call them, or Web3 identifiers was, they're not domains. Domains are like posh.com, right? Domains have a dot system. Domains work on the DNS out of the box. Domains don't take, a page of disclosures this long to explain what they are, how they work, and why they should be used, and how they're going to be renewed. We decided we got to fix this thing. Otherwise, it's incumbent on us to fix this and make sure that the internet is stable. So that was one inspiration. The second inspiration was ICANN is going to have a next gTLD round coming up next year. Everybody now, I think, knows, and I think the application guidebook is coming out sometime in May of this year. So that is the other thing that kind of came rolling. Now, crypto wasn't huge at this point, as everybody knows, like late 2022, early 2023. I think you could probably characterize them as the last bear markets. But we believe, and I still believe, that crypto and Bitcoin is going to transform the world, much like AI. So we started D3 early 2023, got a lot of my old band back together from overseas and also non-overseas. And we would decided to just kind of do things on our term, raise enough sort of buffer capital, got enough smart people, got enough exciting communities in Web3, willing to say, okay, we're going to let you guys do our application for us, much like the ApeCoin DAO. So we're going to launch .ape, and a lot more too, soon to be announced. So that gets us pretty excited. The second reason we started D3 was because we wanted to tokenize assets, right? We wanted to build some standard protocols that people can ultimately trust. So the way that we do that is by working with the either owner of the domain or the registry operator. Like, for example, if Identity Digital comes along and says, okay, Fred, you can tokenize .ai, there's a trust in that, right? I can point to a smart contract that's sort of verified, much like I could point to like the ape contract and be like, there's only one ape contract that I will trust and plop down whatever 50 or 100 ETH for. Nothing else. Web3 is full of scams, so we call this authoritative tokenization, and it requires the owner or the operator of the TLD to sign off on. As opposed to any kid in South America or China, or even my own kids being able to tokenize a contract, throw it out there on a marketplace, and who knows if this is real or not? Who knows if it's tied to the real asset or not? That's our definition of what's authoritative or not. And to do this, in our opinion, you have to kind of get to you have to establish trust at an industry-wide basis. You have to get to the people, you have to get to the provenance of who actually runs and owns this stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so when you're
I'm watching a bunch of Web3 kids, trade all kinds of shit coins and meme coins with no utility. Why can't we bring that into the real asset, just like real estate, right? And we've been saying this since overseas day one. Domains are just like online real estate, if not better than real estate, because you don't have to deal with
the largest bottleneck, in my opinion, to the road to 2 trillion is credit. I mean, there's just it's crazy that we literally are talking about the assets, the digital real estate that literally underpins. I don't know what the size of the global digital economy is, but 100% of it is founded upon the domain name system. And that domain name system, we studied this at length. We hired this Oxford PhD that had specialized in how to create an objective value for real estate. And he came up with this formula that we then tested and applied to domain names to see if we think it works. And I believe it does. And so the best example to look at is the island of Manhattan. And so the island of Manhattan, I'm going to get the numbers wrong because number one, they're old, and number two, it's been a while since I did this, but just for the conversation's sake, I think it was like $1.7 trillion was the value of the island of Manhattan, just the land, okay? And then you look at what is the value of, I don't know if it's total real estate or commercial real estate, or I don't remember, but you look at the value of the real estate on that island of Manhattan, and it was roughly approaching the 1.7 trillion, or whatever the number really is. They were roughly the same. And then you look at the domestic production, the GDP, for example, of the island of Manhattan. What is the actual production, economic production of that piece of land and the businesses and the lives that are contained within it? And it's roughly approaching 1.7. It was like 1.4, right? And then the real estate value was like 1.6. And the island of Manhattan was like 1.7. And so what the thesis was is that over time, the foundation layer of that island, that piece of land that made up the Manhattan Island, all those numbers I think are reversed, okay? And it was the value of the actual underlying land will, over time, as the economics mature and growth stabilizes, the value of the underlying land will approach the total economic output of that which is upon the land, right? And domain names, in my opinion, are on exactly the same path. The island of Manhattan is one of the most mature economic centers on planet Earth. And so what you could say is that the only growth in value, or let's say actually ignore value, the only growth in price of real estate on the island of Manhattan is the result of inflation, monetary inflation. The economic output has basically matured. The growth has stabilized. And so now the underlying layer will begin to approach a stabilized value with its economic output. Domain names are extremely immature still. And you have even a relatively immature, but let's say further in the S curve, developed digital economy. Okay. And I don't know what that number is, but it's a very large number. The total digital output, the economic output of the digital economy worldwide, it's massive. I would venture to say it's probably to the tune of $20-30 trillion a year if I had to take a random guess.
I'll break it out for you. It's at least my AI assistant tells me. Global real estate market valued at 380 trillion in 2022. Yeah. Global bond market valued at 140 trillion. The U.S. housing market alone, 50 trillion. So we're just talking about 2 trillion. 2 trillion.
Just a little bit. Just a little something.
Just the tip. The point is, though, is that if you look at the total digital economy that's happening on top of domains, that is ultimately, and that number is still growing because we're still in the S curve. Okay. So that number, that total digital output is still growing. Digital economic output is still growing. But even if we said that number had stabilized and it was here, the value of the domain names are way down into the left relative. And so what you can do is extrapolate out and say, okay, that's the ski slope that we're going to climb. And so the value of these domain names has to grow. And the bottleneck to that growth is credit. And credit is inhibited by a lack of verification products and insurance products and trust. And so that's it. That's it. You solve those bottlenecks. And then, boom, we are off to the races. Yeah, okay, good. So you said 2 trillion. I was way off. No. Okay, so it's 15 to 20 trillion dollars. The total digital economy worldwide, somewhere between 15 and 20 trillion dollars. That is the end goal, right? Like that's the end point. That's where we're going in terms of domain values. The total domain market should be worth 15 to 20 trillion dollars in the future. Now, I don't know if that's 10 years, 20 years in the future, but 2 trillion seems extremely achievable. And I don't even think it's that ambitious. And based on all of the research that we did about 5-6 years ago with this Oxford guy, to me, it's written in the cards. That's where we're going. Domains are that underlying piece of land. There is a digital economy being built upon it. And so, we're ultimately going, as we mature, we are going to approach the same valuation as the economic output being produced on the land in which we own. So we're on a good path.
Yeah.
How are you going to get us there, Fred?
Yeah, that's the question.
Yeah. So we're going to do it. We're going to do it by creating something called DomainFi. We think that DomainFi will transform this industry. Why are we focused on DomainFi? Got to modernize this ancient-ish tech and rails, right? You can't get to 2 trillion without modernizing, the railroad system or the telephone or communication system, right? Mm-hmm. Then we can then enable new forms of monetization. We can enable, yes, and JT, to your point, there are a number of companies in the Web3 domains and also Web3 non-domains that talk about monetization, yield farming, DeFi, right? We talk to some communities where they're like, we don't have a product. Our token's the product. It's just for DJ and the speculator. It's like you gotta be able to produce some monetization channels for people on the Web2 side if Web3 liquidity will come in. And the third, innovation, right? Like I said, if we build the right rails, the right tokenization, establish the right trust, cannon should be 10 or 100 Afronics There should be 100 escrow.coms. Who cares, right? You've already seen what the impact of stablecoins has done to disrupt global digital, making it just so much easier, convenient, and secure for end users and orgs and business. Efficiency can be built on top. That's our kind of DomainFi by vision.
Super cool. So
what?
And
let me ask you a little speculative question. So, I think we're all in agreement that, like, if we could get the domain world on those rails, wow, what a huge difference, night and day. Obviously, it's easier said than done. Obviously, we've got a lot of stubborn people in the industry at both the investor level, at the registrar level, at the registry level, at the ICANN level. So what do you think? Do you think that there is a future in which ICANN actually adopts a blockchain ledger-based infrastructure, basically either cans VeriSign or basically allows VeriSign to utilize a blockchain for the management of the domain root, DNS root?
I don't think it's I don't think it's hard as people think. I think it's just common sense. I was lucky enough to be invited.
It is common sense, but ICANN is not necessarily common sense.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Again, I do not represent ICANN, but I have been lucky enough to be invited by ICANN to speak at ICANN 81 in Istanbul back just a couple of months ago by Paul Hoffman from the office of the CTO. I was actually pleased to hear that we of all these Web3 companies have some of the most alignment with how ICANN thinks about this, right? It's all about DNS as source of truth. We're very mindful about things like name collision. Ultimately, what we got from that, I even sent a thank you note to Paul afterwards. And it was like, we love the fact that you guys think that it's just all about community acceptance and then trash in the marketplace, right? Anybody can propose, and we didn't get the sense that ICANN is going to say yay or nay to stuff. They're just going to look at community feedback and what's working in the market.
That's very encouraging. That is extreme. I mean, that's literally exactly what I would want to hear from a pragmatic and logical body that's governing an industry like domains, is that we're going to look to the community for acceptance and we're going to look to the marketplace for adoption. That is, that's music to my ears.
We are encouraged because our approach so far seems to be resonates with us and with ICANN's office of the CTO, because we address a system that's more aligned with ICANN's own office of the CTO when it comes to DNS compatibility and mitigating things like name collision. And secondly, we're encouraged because ICANN's not some sort of big bad wolf. They publish all their stuff pretty openly, and they're just about supporting the community. If a community generates enough, generates a proposal, and it's seen as adopted by the industry with real traction, I think that's the way to basically make sure that ICANN can get more in line with something and not torpedo something, right? It's seen as adopted by the industry with real traction. I think that's the way to basically make sure that ICANN can get more in line with something and not torpedo something, right? Allow something that works.
I'm encouraged, and I said the same thing. So, Unstoppable is a sponsor. We've had Matt on the show. Drew is also an investor in Unstoppable. And when we had Matt on the show talking about, they're following somewhat of a similar pattern, I feel like the high-level Web3 domain companies have all recognized and understand the need to work sort of in some conjunction with the ICANN framework to understand that, because really tying Web2 to Web3 and coming up with the right balance and the right interoperability or whatever it is really the key to this broad adoption, use, and success ultimately. And I think that's, to me,
if there's no standard, it's over. Like, it's over before it even started, because name collisions are inevitable. And I thought that the whole dot wallet thing highlighted the whole thing perfectly. It was like, can't we all just get along? And it's like, it's his business. I remember some of these freaking domain people, you know what I mean? It was like, I'm I love you, Cider, but you said some real socialist shit on Twitter the other day, and I had to call you out. But there's a few people in the domain industry that love to throw out some real socialist bullshit. It's like, oh, we can all get along, we can all compete, and we're not going to compete, we're going to cooperate. And then it's like, hell no, this is business. It's a freaking knife fight. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make money. And I'm bringing the knife. So, you gotta,
we got knives and hatchets.
Like,
That's
we
it.
are here to play. You know what I'm saying? Like, we are
2025.
not here to make friends.
It's an East LA night fight.
That's it. That's it.
So causing a customer service nightmare. They bought something like, I don't know, dot bullshit or something. And like your poor customers calling and say, I want to set up email website on dot bullshit. They're like, oh, I'm sorry, no. No, it's not this, not that. Fuck you. I want my return. I want a return.
Yeah.
And so it's very, very clear to us. We call it internally. We have so many internal memes, right? You don't even, Shane knows.
Yeah.
We talk about real assets, fake assets, real Rolex, fake Rolex. My wife, she's only into real Gucci. Don't even try to sell her a fake Gucci. It's but
that's a terrible example. That's a bad example because the fake Gucci is actually made by Gucci.
I just talking about the stuff that's laid out on the New York streets. You know what I mean? And
but that shit's made by Gucci. So
okay.
in the other brands, that's not the case. But the Gucci family, they realized that the black market was even bigger than the actual market for the luxury product, and they were getting undercut. They had all these people making the products in China or in Vietnam, and they were, undercutting their product, taking some portion of the market away from them. And at a minimum, even if they weren't losing some of their market, because it is a different market, usually there's very little overlap between the people that want the fake and want the real, but still it was diluting the brand and they weren't getting paid. And so they said, shit, let's just make it ourselves. And so they just said, all right, we're going to have some portion of the product that's going to be in the fake market, the black market, and we're going to have some portion of the stuff. And this was all private, but it came out in like the 90s that Gucci was making the fake shit and the real shit, just pricing it different.
That's a good point. I think what also too is that the repercussions of having a fake Gucci or real Gucci are like, okay, fine, whatever. It's not going to be life changing. The repercussions of having, real versus fake internet infrastructure.
Got a problem.
Paul Stahuras like to say this sometimes. Like satellites will fall out of the sky. First for them, they were like, aha, we made it. Until that, we're still a scrappy startup, and I'm going to continue to wear my T-shirts and stay in non-fancy hotels until that happens. And then Dominion. Before I jump into there, Shane, feel free to add if you'd like.
Yeah, it's a transition like this takes a lot of education and words, and Fred knows I'm on him all the time about showing people stuff. Like we've done a really good job talking about it, but the exciting part will be when there's a product for them to test out and start playing with and seeing that, and that'll be really exciting. But to get to that point is a lot of work, and you're bridging two incredibly large, historic entities. You're talking Web2 and you're talking crypto, and them on their own are incredible, groups that bridging those two is going to take a hell of a bridge. Bridge. It only can be pulled off by very, very, very few people in the world. And so that's a big lift. And Fred knows that, but he's got the team to do it. But it is a lot of work, and it's a lot of education. It's a lot of these things. That's why you're going to see Fred and everybody on talking about it. I think it's working. I do think that people understand the difference between a wallet address and a domain. I really feel that.
I can speak about it tangentially, because from the brokerage perspective, when the crypto market is in a bull market, the crypto industry is buying domain names. And so we're selling a lot of names into the crypto industry. And I can say that conversation is getting easier and easier with each passing year, and particularly with each passing cycle. This cycle is far more easy than the last cycle. and they understand. In the last cycle, there was a lot of literally one of the questions that people would ask me is, well, isn't Web3 domains going to supplant Web2 domains, and shouldn't the prices be coming down because they have, the tile? And it's like, no, dude, no. Like, I can tell you, I will bet everything I have, you will never be able to resolve your homepage on your freaking Ethereum domain or your Handshake domain or whatever. It's not happening. So, that question is no longer being asked. People understand there is a difference. I'm not going to say that everybody has given up their hopium. Some people are still hitting the pike, but for the most part, people get it that Web2 domains are where it's at. They are the only domains, and everything else is an identifier that may or may not point to a real domain.
Yeah, I mean, you saw a lot of like subdomains and a lot of in the currencies or on the tokens, .bay something. It's just a holding. Like, it's a name, it's a holding, and people do realize that. This last quarter was a big jump, whatever the reasoning, and I think D3 had a lot of it in the other web companies. But the last quarter, I noticed people saying, how do I get involved in real domains? They got excited about Web3 was good. They saw the money that was had of flipping .eth and these other ones, and they saw the potential in just that. So now they see real domains and say, hold on, I really enjoyed doing that before. If I can own a real asset, how do I participate? That was last quarter. That was the first time my DMs were starting to light up. And that's what the future is. I think the people that really enjoyed, I think it was kind of a gateway drug of flipping these handles, because they really didn't care what the asset was. They just liked the ability to buy and sell. And domains will offer that same opportunity with a real asset. So I think we're making headroads into all of this. And I think the Web3 companies as well, right? We talked about the other ones that were decentralized web companies. What are they doing now? They're becoming registrars. They're starting to be involved in signing affiliate deals with Web2 companies. They're seeing the pathways as well, are still. So I think it's really exciting, but it's going to take more of that.
Knife fight.
Bring a knife to a domain fight. But yeah, let's get it. All right, well, that's what's up. Well, we're almost out of time, so real sort of last kind of quick round robin. Anything else, Drew? Anything on your end before we close up here?
No, I'm I'm gung-ho and excited about all this. I'm excited about 2025 in general, but I think this is going to be a very exciting year for this evolution of what we've been seeing, where it was, let's say complete fugazi, from 2015 to 2019, it was basically total fugazi. Then there was okay, now we got utility with wallet names and identifiers. And then it was okay, now we actually are tying these into real domain names and making them basically like a placeholder or a call option, or at a minimum, just an identifier. I think we're making huge progress. And I think when we get these standards in place and we have ready acceptance in the marketplace, I think it's going to be an exciting time. I mean, look, you could say anybody can say whatever they want about, the Web3. I wish there was never a term Web3 domains, because it's exactly what Fred says. It's not domain. And so that I think actually set the whole industry back. Unfortunately, but because this words matter, people get a perspective. The first touch with this stuff matters, because first impressions matter. But nonetheless, it is the logical progression that this industry will take. And so I'm excited to watch it happen. Maybe it's this cycle, maybe it's the next one, but it is inevitable. And every step of the way will be better incrementally for everybody in the industry. So I am excited to see how this all rolls out, and I'm very sad that I unfortunately can't make it to Dominion, but I do think it'll be a great event, and I wish you guys all the best. Just glad to be along a little bit for the ride.
Yeah, no, I think that all makes sense, man.
So
I agree. The want's there. Behind the door are people waiting to come into the shop. You know,
Yeah.
you can see and you peek out the door and you're like, okay, these people want in. So just got to open that store.
Can I just say one quick thing, takeaway for this episode that I want, just because of the understanding I have of what people misunderstand about this whole thing. People need to stop thinking about the original narrative of Web3 domains being a competition for Web2. This Web3 infrastructure, these Web3 rails, are an enhancement for all of your Web2 domains. This is the best possible thing that can happen to your OG TLD domain names. Okay. The best thing that can possibly happen is for them to have the ability to be tokenized to create increased liquidity, increased fulfillment, rapid payments, instantaneous fulfillment, like everything we need, lending, credit, all of that can be now accomplished on these rails. And so the success of D3 and this tokenization, whether it's D3, Unstoppable, anybody else, anybody that is pushing forward the tokenization of domain names, not as a competitor, it's just an enhancement of the domains you already have. That's what people need to realize. The original narrative was that this was these were going to supplant domains, these were going to replace domains, these were going to. None of that is true. None of that will ever be true. This is just an evolution of the domains we already have, an enhancement that will increase their value, increase their liquidity, and increase the available, let's say, infrastructure
the freedom to
around
transact. It will increase the freedom to transact.
Yeah.
That's what we're having. And I won't have to go into a website of a company owned by another company and re-log in and then put a verification code into my thing to prove to the company that I'm within the company that I actually own the domain that they already know I own. Like those processes are all be eliminated. But the freedom to transact, to do all these things with the assets that we can't do, that are the rails are individually owned, and we need to make them more available to everyone. So